To fix firmly in place. When we went camping last week, we pitched a tent. Pitch, to throw, usually with a particular objective or toward a particular point. The fastball is the most common type of pitch thrown by pitchers in baseball and softball.
Pitch, a black or dark viscous substance obtained as a residue in distillation of organic materials and especially in tars.
The German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz was the first person to provide conclusive proof of the existence of electromagnetic waves. The unit of frequency, cycle per second, was named the Hertz in his honor. Hertz can be used to measure quite a few things, like radio frequencies, computer clock speeds, and sound waves. Humans perceive the frequency of sound waves as pitch. If Hertz is defined as 1 cycle per second, this means that 1 vibration of air in 1 second is expressed as 1 Hertz, and 5,000 vibrations per second is expressed as 5,000 Hertz. The average human can hear pitches between 20 and 20,000 Hertz, meaning that everything you can hear is just the air around you vibrating between these two frequencies. The larger the number, the higher the pitch. The smaller the number, the lower the pitch. Do you ever wonder why your dog or cat's ears perk up randomly? This is because the hearing of dogs and cats is far greater than ours. Dogs can hear frequencies up to 44 kilohertz, while cats can hear frequencies as high as 77 kilohertz. To put this in perspective, let's listen to the sound of this cello. If I cut out the higher frequencies of this sample, it'll sound like this. You're not hearing the full version anymore. This is like how cats can hear and find a mouse. When a mouse squeaks, you can only hear a small portion of the noise that's actually being made by the mouse. Cats can hear all of it. Their ears turn into little radar dishes to pinpoint the location of the mouse. While we don't normally use our hearing to hunt mice, we do use it to make our everyday life more enjoyable. Why do you think billions and billions of dollars are spent every year on streaming music, CDs, radios, live events, advertising, and TV shows? It's because hearing is one of our 5 fundamental senses. When something is fundamental, it is perceived the strongest. Fundamental frequencies are the sounds you can hear the loudest. Think back to that example of the cello. I initially took out the higher frequencies. If I took out the fundamental frequency instead, the thickest part of the sample, it would sound like this. Our voices have fundamental frequencies as well. When someone has a low resting voice, you could say that their voice has a low fundamental frequency. The average adult male resting voice has a fundamental frequency from 85 to 180 Hertz, while the average adult female resting voice has a fundamental frequency of 165 to 255 Hertz. For example, the pitch of my resting voice that you're hearing right now fluctuates between 120 and 175 Hertz. In music, pitches that are impossible or extremely difficult to identify are called indefinite pitches. Percussion instruments, like cymbals, snare drums, and tambourines, produce a wide variety of frequencies that make it difficult to discern a definite pitch. Aside from percussion instruments, most instruments produce what we call definite pitches, or pitches that occur at a constant frequency. Some specific definite pitches have names, but before we can talk about them, we need to know how they got their names. Historically, countries and cultures east of Europe are referred to as the Eastern world. Europe and the Americas are referred to as the Western world. Ancient Greece and ancient Rome are considered to be the birthplaces of Western civilization, philosophy, religion, and music. In Western music, a pitch standard, also known as concert pitch, is used to facilitate tuning amongst a group of musicians. When musicians match pitch, they are considered in tune. If an individual musician's pitch is higher or lower than the pitch standard, they are considered out of tune. All musicians play out of tune to some degree. The best and most well-trained musicians just adjust their pitch before anyone else can hear it. The pitch standard, or concert pitch, has varied over history from ensemble to ensemble. When a specific pitch is widely accepted, This pitch is known as a standard pitch. You may be confused, and that's okay. A pitch standard can be any pitch that multiple musicians use to tune to. A standard pitch is when musicians use the same pitch to tune every time they get together. Before the 19th century, there wasn't a standard pitch that musicians tuned to. The pitch that musicians would tune to in a city would differ from other musicians within the same city. It wasn't until the Stuttgart Conference, a congress of physicists, where Johann Scheibler recommended that a specific pitch should be set around the world as a standard pitch. Before we can talk about the Western musical alphabet, we need to be sure that we understand pitch. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you can answer these questions easily, you'll be ready to learn about the Western musical alphabet. If you have trouble answering these questions, go back, follow the time codes, and rewatch those parts of this lesson. Ready? Here we go. What is the name of the unit of frequency that pitch is measured by? If a sound is measured to be 54 Hertz, how many vibrations of air will occur in 1 second? Does a flute produce an indefinite or definite pitch? What about a snare drum? What is another name for a pitch standard? What is the difference between a pitch standard and a standard pitch? The answers to these questions can be found in the description below. Until next time, remember that the best way to learn something is by teaching it. Ja, matinee.